Today, Judge Executive Jack Whitfield, Mayor Kevin Cotton, special guest, Emergency Management Director Nick Bailey with us. Good afternoon, Brecken.
Hey Jack, we've tried to start these updates just to give people an update on where we're at, what's going on, what's new, some of the information that we're receiving in these meetings that we're having with the state, with FEMA, with Red Cross, all the different organizations. Just got out of a very productive meeting, I felt like, just a few minutes ago. So why don't you talk to us just a little bit about that?
So that's one of the things I've been talking about with the state and FEMA and others. In addition to beginning the debris cleanup, the next step that we've really got to take is long-term temporary housing, because we know we still got a lot of people that are displaced, that may be living in less than ideal conditions, living with friends and family. And as we said, if you do that long enough, it's hard to stay friends and family. But we did have a good conversation with the state, the emergency management, and with the Secretary of Transportation. So we are getting plans submitted for that long-term temporary housing. Now, there are a few different options that are being looked at on how we handle that. And it's not going to be a process as fast as what you or I would like to see it and are used to having in private business. But we got to go through a lot of different organizations. So as we begin to get more information on how that long-term temporary housing is going to be handled, we'll get that out. But just be assured that we are working on that issue, because we know it's extremely important to get people back into somewhat of a sense of normalcy with their housing.
Yeah, one of the things that we heard both from FEMA and today in the meeting today with Director Dossett was the fact that if you applied for your FEMA or you did your FEMA application, one of the things that it asked you on there was what your status was. And one of those statuses are homeless. And what we've been finding is a lot of folks that filled that application out initially, because you had somewhere to stay, you did not mark that as being homeless. But if your home is not repairable, or if it is gone, then you need to mark that as homeless, even though you have someplace that you're currently staying. And the reason for that is the resources that they're going to be sending down for the long-term temporary housing is based off of that data. And if you cannot move back into the residence that you were living in prior to the tornado, you need to check the box homeless. So go back into your application and make sure that you get that done. Or go back down to the sites that are available to do the one-on-one with the FEMA representatives and make sure that they correct that on your application.
Right. According to FEMA, if your house is gone, even if you're living with family, but if your house was destroyed or damaged beyond repair, in their definition, you are homeless. And to get those resources flowing, we need to get all that correct data to FEMA.
Now, I heard this morning, as a matter of fact, that we had some volunteer groups that were going out, working with property owners, and there are still property owners that have not registered for FEMA assistance. If you have not registered, please do so. Get that registration done for FEMA. Go down to the trailer at the library in Dawson Springs or even at Central High School and get that application filled out face-to-face with a FEMA representative. But also make sure that you're applying through the American Red Cross. It is a different fund that's available to you. It's immediate funds that are available, and they want to be able to help you as well. So it's two completely different registrations. FEMA also, if you register through FEMA, it's gonna kick you over to another organization. You want to talk a little bit about that? The Small Business Administration?
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting about the Small Business Administration, because normally you don't think of the SBA when you're talking about individuals and houses. You think of small businesses. But for those who are going to try to rebuild, you'll go through FEMA, and then you can get a very low interest rate loan through the SBA to be able to pay to rebuild. Because, as we talked about early on, FEMA does not come in and build a new house. If your house was gone, FEMA's not going to come in and rebuild it. The payout is not enough to rebuild it. So a lot of people are going to be getting a loan of some sort to rebuild that house, and it will most likely need to be through the Small Business Administration. And again, it'll be at a very low interest rate, so it will help you to be able to afford to rebuild those houses.
One of the things we talked about in the town hall for Dawson Springs, Jack, was, or that we heard that you all were talking about, was even though they might not want a loan, they still need to apply through the Small Business Administration. Doesn't mean that they have to accept the funds, but they have to apply through the Small Business Administration. Part of the reason for that is if you do not qualify for funding through the Small Business Administration, then you will be kicked back to FEMA for a federal grant option for housing. So there's a lot of applications, there's a lot of paperwork that's gonna have to be filled out, but if you'll just work through that process or find somebody to help you work through that process, it goes relatively smooth, is what we've been hearing from both FEMA and the Small Business Administration.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of applications, but again, to reiterate, if you've not filled that out, we're a proud community that doesn't always like to reach out and ask for help, and that's generally my attitude as well. If you got a problem, take care of your own business. But this is not a normal life problem. You know, when you have a tornado rip through, please reach out to get the help and financial assistance that you pay for. I mean, the money that comes from FEMA, we all pay for it every paycheck. So it's not like you're getting something for free. You have put this money in all of your life. So please reach out to get that assistance to help get everyone rebuilt in this county.
So Jack, we have with our special guest with us is Nick Bailey. He is our EMA director. Nick, why don't you start off just telling us a little bit about what your position is, what you do, and then I know you've got a few points that you want to address as well.
Sure. So my office basically is charged with preparedness, response, and recovery to any disaster that takes place in the confines of Hopkins County and any citizen within that boundary of Hopkins County. And obviously the tornado is a disaster for us. So we've been part of the preparedness, response, and now we're in the recovery phase, what we consider recovery, which is the debris cleanup and the rebuilding. But I do want to kind of address a couple things that I know some things my office has received calls on, specifically in relation to the FEMA letters, whereas people are getting responses from FEMA after they register, and they'll get this letter, and it's pretty well like a letter that, hey, you know, you don't qualify or whatever like that. They're kind of pretty well like sending you a letter telling you that, hey, we need more information from you. So if you get that letter, please read that letter in its entirety, because all it might be is just like one thing that they need, like maybe a copy of like your insurance, or maybe the name is not valid that's on the deed to the home. So read that letter in its entirety and just respond to that, because that'll help move that process forward. Because if you let that letter sit, you're not going to move forward being able to appeal any decision that FEMA does. We've actually shared some information on our emergency management Facebook that kind of explains that letter. And if you do end up getting a denial letter on exactly what it means and what it's looking for, so we encourage you to go out there and reach out to that. I believe it's been shared on multiple other agencies' Facebooks as well. But it is, like they said, it's important to make sure you register. You can register, the best way to register is in person. Hopkins County Central High School, they've got the Disaster Recovery Center, and then there is the mobile registration bus at the Dawson Springs Library over on Ramsey Street. It's best to get that one-on-one personal help, but you could also register at disasterassistance.gov, and then there's an 800 number that you can also you can call into to register, and it's 800-621-3362. Like I said, the best way is to go register in person.
So you brought up something that we're beginning to work on now, the debris cleanup. So if you're out in the Barnsley area, Dawson Springs, Flat Creek, you're going to see some big trucks rolling that are not state or county trucks. They're the contractors that we've hired to begin this cleanup. So I know we've had some starting slow today, getting a few trucks rolling, and that'll grow every day as we get more trucks in here to do it. But you'll see them all over the affected area. I know we had some rolling on Barnsley Loop this morning, Flat Creek, some out in Dawson, some off 62. Those are big trucks. They're not extremely maneuverable, and they don't have great sight lines sometimes. So please be careful and patient with them as they're trying to clean up. You know, they're going to be stopping on the side of the road to pick that debris up. So it will cause some traffic issues, but we got to get it cleaned up, and we're moving on that. So hopefully here in the next couple of weeks, we will see a big change. And if part of your property gets picked up and you've got more behind it, go ahead and push that up so they can reach it from the road. We'll have to continue that. It's not going to be a one loop and done. Those trucks will continue to roll around until we get everything cleaned up.
And while Jack's talking about the debris, we want to stress that it's important to kind of try to segregate your debris and separate those piles as best you can, because it's going to help in the end whatever we, what landfill facility it's taken to. So some of the categories is, you want to do your like vegetative debris, any kind of clean wood you can put in a pile. Any of your like building materials, your siding, your shingles, piping, stuff like that needs to go in a different pile. Your what we call white goods, which is your appliances, your stoves, your refrigerators, your washers, dryers, water heaters, all that goes in a separate pile because a lot of it's recyclable. Then you have the household hazardous waste, which is your paint, your gasolines, your LP propane grills, anything that could be considered a household hazardous material, that should go in a separate pile. But that will help the contractors that go around if you can do that from the get-go, and it'll help them collect the debris a lot easier. But one thing is you don't want to stack the debris on top of fire hydrants. You don't want to stack it on top of any kind of public utility structures. There's some transformers that are ground mounted. You don't want to stack it there because you want to stack it away from stuff, mailboxes, things like that, to where they can easily get a hold of it with their grapple trucks and other heavy equipment.
So is it pretty safe to say that over the next couple of weeks that people might need to plan their drive to and from work to expect maybe some delays as they're coming in, and that there's going to be some heavy truck traffic rolling around that they might not be expecting, so maybe they need to leave a little earlier in the morning? And
definitely need a plan for slower traffic. Like I say, the trucks are going to be stopping every time they come to a pile, so that, traffic's going to back up a little bit. They'll continue moving on down the road when they can, but it's going to cause some delays.
So there's some other options that are taking place right now as well, some other resources that are happening, and one of those is Rand Paul's office. Jason Hassert has, they want to do some office hours. Their first office hour is going to be here at City Hall in Madisonville, 67 North Main Street. That's going to be Thursday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And they're going to be doing, they're going to be helping you with documents such as passports, birth certificates, things like that maybe you've lost in the tornado, and they're going to try to help expedite getting those items to you a little quicker. So there'll be several of those that will be popping up, that they're going to be going into the different communities. We know that there are several people that have relocated temporarily here in the city, so they wanted to kind of start here and then work their way into the other communities. So just kind of watch out for that. We'll try to get that posted on all of our Facebook pages as well, just to make sure that that communication is going out. But if you've lost those important documents, then please come in, utilize those services, and let them help you. There's a lot of military paperwork that they can help you with as well if you've lost all of those military papers. But let them help you with that and expedite that process for you. And
another important document that some people may have lost is their driver's license. So I worked with the state. They're going to send down a mobile driver's licensing unit, and hopefully I can get it in at least 2 locations over different time periods. But when they set up, you'll be able to go in and get a replacement driver's license at no cost.
All right, so what else coming from emergency management do we need to look forward to from you all in the near future? And or what are some things that we've learned maybe on the preparedness side as residents can understand about the tornado warnings and things like that as we're moving forward?
So it's a pretty awesome question there, Kevin. Preparedness is key. You want to have multiple ways to receive warnings. One of the biggest things that we advocate for is the weather radios. But you don't want that to be your only form of warning. You either want to have like a cell phone app. You want to sign up on the county's Rave Alert system, which is free of charge to any Hopkins County citizen. They can opt in to receive severe weather warnings, tornado warnings. You've got broadcast media, but you want to have a plan to have multiple ways to receive weather warnings, because that's how you get your information in a timely manner. A lot of people talk about the outdoor warning sirens. We have many of those throughout the city of Madisonville and throughout the county, and a lot of our smaller cities in the county. The problem is with outdoor warning sirens is they're just that, hence the name outdoor. They're designed for outdoors. Even though you might hear it inside, that's not what they're designed for. So don't use that as a save-all for the outdoor warning sirens. Make sure you have a weather radio. They're inexpensive. I mean, you can get them $35, $45.
And they can save your life,
And
absolutely.
they will save your lives. That and, you know, you want to make sure you have, like I said, more than just that one way. That is one of the biggest things on preparedness. But another thing on preparedness is we're finding out is you want to make sure you know where your pharmacy, where your doctors are, because, you know, trying to get your information to get you prescriptions. You know, you need probably a list of your medicine. Maybe even have a family member away from the area to hold a list of your medicine. That way there's always somebody that we can go to and get a list of that medicine and try to help you get your medicine back, because that was a big thing that a lot of people lost their medicine that they needed. You know, and whenever you have pharmacies impacted, it's hard to get those records. So, you know, you want to make sure you have your records. And of course, I know with a tornado, it's hard, but it just generalized preparedness for, you know, a ice storm or snowstorm or fire or anything like that. You want to make sure you have records of everything. But you know, you want to have like a disaster kit to where you can survive for 3 days without help, because it takes a long time sometimes to get additional help in from the state and the federal government, especially when you have widespread disaster. Luckily, we're kind of just a handful of counties, but if there's been an ice storm where everybody's impacted, it might take a while to get other assistance in. So, yeah, I think preparedness is key in going forward. Having that communications plan in place and having ways to receive warning is absolutely paramount.
You know, some of the things that we've heard from folks out in the communities are that they don't feel like we're moving as fast as what we should, and we kind of feel that we're moving as fast as we can. But what we heard today, honestly, from Director Dawson and Secretary Jim Gray with the Transportation Cabinet, was that you all are already ahead of schedule. You're 2 weeks ahead of schedule compared to other disasters. Is that what I heard this morning?
Yeah, you know, we've talked to quite a few people that said it's really moving fast here, and I know it still doesn't feel like it's moving fast enough to keep me happy, and I know for those who are out of their home, they want it to move a lot faster. So we'll continue to push to get things done as quickly as we can. But I do want everybody to know we have been very active trying to get ready to clean up. You know, there's a few things that you have to slow down and make sure you do right, because this is going to be an expensive process that we've got to make sure we work with FEMA right so we don't make mistakes. But we will continue to push to move as fast as we can to get people settled back in.
All right, so is there anything else that we need to cover?
I'm good.
Do we have any questions that we need to cover? All right.
Biggest thing is making sure you get registered with FEMA. You got to register. It's a big thing.
And the Red Cross.
And the Red Cross. The Red Cross does provide some other assistance that FEMA doesn't provide, especially to renters. They have an expanded program where they can provide some additional services. And that's the key, though. You got to get registered.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for being on here with us. Let us know if you got questions.
And even though as fast as we're able to move, please continue to be patient as we're trying to navigate through one of the worst disasters that we've seen in this community, and know that we're all working for the same common goal, and that's to get things done as quick as possible and to get you back in your homes as soon as we can possibly make that happen. So thank you, Judge. Thank you, Nick, for all that you all are doing. Thank you to Mayor Chris Smiley and Dawson Springs for what they're trying to get accomplished, and hope you all have a happy new year, and we'll see you next Monday at 2 p.m.